Good morning. It's been a couple days, and I just had to press record before I finished putting my cream on. So today I was inspired to talk about things that I don't think is talked about enough, and that's blood and women who bleed. Every woman bleeds, and they're walking around out there with blood gooshing out of them, okay? Unless they have a dry wad of cotton jammed up that's absorbing it all, they are feeling it's kind of like the feeling of peeing your pants, okay? Warm, but thicker. And it doesn't come like pee is like, psh, right? Blood is more like, if that makes sense. And it does if you're a woman, okay? It's one of those experiences that you just don't know unless you experience it. You can describe it, you can get it close, you can get a sense, but it is something you just either experience or you don't. And I'm talking like trying to do errands around, okay? Do an errand around town. And, you're minding your own business. You're doing your own thing. You get out of your vehicle. You run across the parking lot. Oops, guess what? A ton of blood just oozed out of you. And now you're entering the store, with this unknown massacre in your pants, okay? Because it's hard to tell the amount. I mean, you can feel it, but it's hard to assess the damage, okay? So you just have to trust in whatever things you have going on down there to catch the situation. Yeah. So it is, and this is just the topical stuff. Okay, this isn't like what it feels like to shed the lining of the inside of your uterus. Okay, it doesn't just like, like leaves just like deciding to let go of a branch. No, there's like muscles contracting, like almost false labor, or like there's it's sometimes scraping, feels like sometimes it's just like this tug, but it's all from the inside, okay? The inside wanting out. And then when you're dealing with it, okay, when you finally get yourself into a bathroom where you're like, okay, let's see what the situation is, right? It's like crime scene from CSI, put your freaking rubber gloves on and you're getting in there to see the cause of death, okay? And it's a bloody crime scene. It's a bloody crime scene. 4 or 5 times a day, okay, on the heavier days. This isn't me complaining. I'm not complaining about it. We haven't got to that part yet, okay? There's no complaining. This is just what it's like, okay? So notice the difference. This is just me sharing what it's like to be talking to somebody and they're like, oh, yeah, my German Shepherd. And there's blood just going like the scene from The Shining when the elevator doors open and there's this like slow motion freaking tidal wave of blood crashing down the hallways, and you're like, wow, that's really, really interesting. But you know what? The only thing you're thinking about is what kind of situation am I dealing with downstairs right now? Okay, my basement's flooding, and I don't know what the damage is. I just know it's bloody because blood stains. Okay, it's messy. It's messy. I mean, the good thing is that it is stem cells. Blood is all stem cells. It's it's the environment that life is grown. So, people putting that stuff all over their face and stuff. Yeah. Why haven't we been doing this whole time? Is what I want to know. So, it's not as weird as you think. Babies are grown in it. We are literally grown in this stuff. And yet it is all taboo. So this is what happened. I was just going to come on here and talk about the bloody truth that is periods for women, most of their life. And it's really hard not to sidestep into witches. How did I get to witches? Because witches, the whole witch craze, the whole witch phenomenon, the witch burnings, witch prosecutions, witch hunting, it was all women, the takedown of empowered women, okay? Because for some reason, we, as a collective, we, the proverbial, all of us living on this earth, somehow have pushed under the rug how freaking amazing it is that we grow human beings inside of our bodies, okay? Now, this isn't an argument for like, oh, women are better than men. Okay, I mean, it's not an argument. First of all, this is more about acknowledgement. Okay, somebody like I've been somebody who has noticed a lack of acknowledgement throughout my life, and I also in turn noticed my own lack of acknowledging of others because we inadvertently do what we are, learn by example, right? So women's periods, the process of, or the byproduct of having these bodies that can grow life inside of them. Like, I'm not talking like, oh, I got a parasite inside my body and that's life and it's growing. Yay, look at me, I'm growing life inside my body. No, I'm talking about people. I'm talking about an entire human being grows from a tiny little, egg that gets fertilized. Yes, yes, very important part. Very, very important part. I'm not saying that that part's not important, okay? That is a very important part. But after that very, very, very important part of the egg being fertilized, there is a continuation of a very, 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 very important part, which is the growing, the incubating of this fertilized egg into a human being, okay? And it gets pushed out or ripped out. I had mine ripped out because he would have split me in two. I would have been, if it was normal childbirth back in the day, I would have died. My baby would have killed me. He was 11 pounds, 6 ounces when he was born. I was 8 pounds, 9 ounces. My mom gave birth to me naturally, okay, and I was a big baby back then. That's what they considered a big baby. 8 pounds, 9 ounces. My baby was 11 pounds, 6 ounces. That's 11.5. That's halfway to 12 pounds, okay? I actually know somebody who had a 12-pound baby. It is no small thing, and yet we treat it as if it is a small thing. This whole debate on, women should, these things are alive, and you're murdering them if you get, it's part of my body. It's inside my body. It is using the reserves that are inside my body. I'm the one that gets to decide what happens to it because it's affecting me personally on a physical, emotional, spiritual level. Okay, I've got this portal inside my body, and this new body is growing inside of me. It blows my mind how much we have like devalued or diluted this miracle that we're able to do. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. Okay. And then I just watched this. There was this man. There's a video somebody sent me, and it was of this man, and he was speaking in front of a crowd. I think he was a professor or something, but he was talking about life expectancy and just like evolution, natural selection. How we evolve and why, and the reasons why things do the things that they do. Right. So, in the wild, right, the minute something can no longer reproduce, it dies, right? Because the function is evolution to produce the next generation, and then it's eventually evolving and getting better as you go, right? But women go through menopause. Women have developed a thing where their body transforms from being this portal, body producing, life giving vessel. Oh, sorry about that. That was my alarm. Where was I? Life giving vessel. Anyways, we're talking about menopause and evolution. Women are kept alive far beyond the ability to reproduce. And this man, this speaker, his argument was, or his point was that women serve a function, which is why they are kept longer, because they hold wisdom and experience, right? And that needs to be shared. That is a valuable asset to the generations that are evolving. And so this is why, on an evolutionary sense, women are meant to live longer, because they are still of value, even though their bodies are no longer creating life. And whereas men, I love you, they die pretty young, right? And when things don't when things stop working. And I don't know. I don't know what my point was. My point was, oh yeah, back to witches. So I've always felt like there was a major, major effort to create an imbalance in the masculine and feminine. And again, I just want to say, this isn't about one is better than the other. There's my kitty. Hold on. Sorry, he would have just kept. I wasn't ready for that. Okay. Witches being burnt as a way of tipping the scales. So the whole journey that woman, the feminine aspect, the feminine energy, has gone through up until this point has all been this stamping down, this diluting, this devaluing of the feminine. And I think the whole witch era was a massive, massive move in order to do that. And I'm not discounting that there are evil creatures out there who are actually the witches that were being talked about or whatever. But it was almost like, almost like it was an excuse to create a hysteria that the public could be involved in, which is a whole other thing when you're dealing with the psychology. So say you've got this empowered woman living in your village, okay? And you are a insecure woman for whatever reason. And you're married to this man, and you saw him look at this beautiful, empowered woman that lives in your village once. And you suddenly became fearful that, this woman was going to take your man away, or that your man maybe thinks about this woman more than he thinks about you, or whatever. Like, there's like this whole thing. But then there's this like, if you suspect somebody in your village is a witch, send a note to us and we'll come in and burn them at the stake, right? I mean, it's not so like cut and dry as that. Like, I feel like there was more psychology that went behind the whole thing. There was more hysteria. There was more like mob mentality, people getting this false sense of empowerment to, have control over anybody else's life. And jealousy and contempt and all of those kinds of things can be really, really harmful and dangerous. And I think that was part of the ploy with this whole witch burning thing. Like, you could just not like a person and get them taken out. She could be making jelly and you could be making jam, and you're like, if there was only a way I could get rid of the competition. Oh, right, there's this whole witch burning thing. Oh, guess what? She's a witch, right? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, it was set up really easy to throw anybody under the bus. And I'm fully considering, like, the Crusades were people going into villages and causing injustices, because all the empowered women in that village would be the ones that come up and step up out front, right? And be like, hey, no, this isn't right. What are you doing? And there are your witches that you take down, the empowered woman, because that was the real threat, right? Because you can't raise a society of people. You can't control a society of people when you have empowered individuals all strewn around in the mix. Yeah, you'll control some of them, but it doesn't take much logic to break the spell. And so you've got somebody who's thinking on their own, being like, does that really make sense? And then all these people who got caught up in the hype are suddenly, they're snapped out of their whatever sort of trance they were under. And so I caution against this. Like, this is a really great example of how masses can be manipulated and controlled, and put against each other. And so you saw a little bit of it during the COVID times, right? With this, like, the vaxxed versus the unvaxxed, and you know, protect your neighbor, and if you have suspicions about your neighbor being vaxxed or unvaxxed or whatever, you know, you call them in. And like, this is witch burning. Like, people were upset with each other because of the different choices that everybody was making. And it was all because it was pitched in a way, right? Like, if you don't do this thing, then you're killing your neighbor's grandmother, you know, like it used people's fear and psychology against them and each other. And I feel very urged to caution against that happening again. You know, it's been my experience that when you stand up against the crowd, when you do things against the norm, when you turn in the opposite direction than the rest of everybody, you are like the nail that sticks out, that draws attention to yourself, that gets hammered back in, and nobody wants that, right? But nobody's acknowledging that they've already been hammered in. And so, I don't know. Also, history has shown us that every single individual who has ever put themselves out there, who's ever forced their nail back up, even at the risk of being hammered again, they're the ones that are driving our evolution. They're the ones that are bringing us through dark days, through, you know, like the guy who invented the light bulb, which is up for debate. I think it was Tesla, and I think that was that other guy. Was it Graham Bell? No, yeah, no, I can't remember. I think he was just a guy who knew people who kind of overheard, oversaw, or nearby, and stole the whole thing. It was like, I've got an idea. Look what I just thought of all by myself. No, it was freaking Tesla. Anyways, Einstein, right? Da Vinci, like, all these people were looked at as crazy. They didn't work in the regular system. They did things differently. They stood out. People were like, what? Like, I think Einstein got kicked out of school or something, right? Like, he wasn't fitting in with the general population, and was chastised for it for the longest time. And then it wasn't until later on that it was like, oh, this person was telling the truth. Like, we've seen it in Bug's Life. Bug's Life is a good example. The main guy in Bug's Life, everybody dismissed him as the weirdo. He was brilliant. He was inventing stuff. And they were like, you know, trying to make things easier? Like, that's weird, right? Totally dismissed. And, you know, he stood up against the grasshoppers, and he got beat up in front of them. And every single person, fear of themselves, were like, well, I don't want to get beat up, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut. And in that movie, they discovered that, well, if we all stand together, they're not going to beat us all. They can't beat us all up. And we actually outnumber them, right? It's so good. It's such a great. It's also the grasshoppers. Come on. But anyways, back to witches. So this idea. Oh, and then I got this book. It was a magazine, and it was beautiful. It was really, really nicely written, and it had all like the history and the progression and all this stuff. And it had this image of this woman on trial, and she's like, what the fuck, basically. And I was trying to imagine myself, like, say I'm in my 20s, where I'm a way more fiery temper than I am now. I still have a temper, but it's like a dragon in a cave. It rarely comes out, okay, because it can destroy villages, okay. But anyways, the feistiness, the need to be seen, be heard, and this is for their lives, right? So they are like, what the heck, Henry? I totally, cured your goat from sickness last weekend when you were like going crazy and you needed to feed your family and, all this stuff. And now you're calling me a witch, and right? Well, all the people are seeing is, first of all, you being completely right about everything that you're saying, because I feel like witches would have been truth tellers as well. And so again, you're playing in, like, maybe that's your only crime. Maybe your only crime is because that the secrets of all these people, and they're all scared that you're going to tell, and so they want you gone, right? But you're up there trying to defend your life, and everybody's like, look at her, she's crazy, right? Poking the bear. It's so easy. And then this idea of that was also in the book, was that image of witches being green and purple um, and haggard, and patchy hair, and no teeth and crooked nose, and this whole image of this witch. But what was actually happening was they were stealing these empowered women in the middle of the night, bringing them down into dungeons and torturing them relentlessly, ripping their teeth out, pulling their hair out, beating, punching, crippling them, and then until they confessed anything that you wanted them to in order for you to stop. And also giving names of anybody that they could freaking think of in order for it to stop. And then they're parading this broken, bloodied, misshapen, disheveled version of themselves to the people, saying, look at this woman and her true face, what she actually looks like. And she's hobbling, she's horrendous, she's hideous. And that really really hit home. And I don't know, I went through this whole thing where I really identified it. I don't know if I was feeling the spirit of it, or ancestral remembrance, or like genetic remembrance, or whatever, but I have never felt so a part of that community than I have in this life, in the last few years anyways. And I was right on the top of that. Like, I'm in my kitchen and I'm making bread, right? I got my music on, I've got candles, I've got some broth cooking on the stove, with some chicken bones, and I'm throwing herbs in there and stirring it with my big stir spoon, and mixing dough and getting herbs that I picked from my garden in a little jar on my shelf, right? And I'm putting it in there, and some salt, and and suddenly, and I had just like gone down this whole witch wormhole, and my wand, which is my my spoon, I'm suddenly just like, I'm a witch. Am I a witch? Like, is somebody peering through my window and seeing this and being like, oh my God, she's a witch, right? And then thinking, like, this was literally what women back in the day were burnt for. Like, somehow that scene was threatening to people, was something that people were scared of. And there was all kinds of things. What was one of the things? Like, throw her in water. If she drowns, she's not a witch. Like, what kind of crazy logic is that? And people were on board for that. Oh, sure, let's see if she's a witch or not. Oh, she's dead, guess she's not a witch. Oops. Like, what? But this is the whole thing with mob mentality, right? Like, we see it in Frankenstein, and yes, these are all movies and stuff like that. Or Beauty and the Beast with Gaston. He whips up a freaking mob like that, because he used fire, he used music, he used his charm, his public pull that he already had, and he painted a picture, and he got everybody involved. And before they know it, they're all grabbing their pitchforks and their torches and following him on their path. And that's a real thing. Like, psychology, that's a real thing. And then if you go like on the energetic side of things, where we're all in this energetic sphere that's around us, and we influence each other through proximity, which is a whole other thing. If you think about the whole COVID needing to be 6 feet apart, and apparently your bubble, your energetic sphere, extends about 6 feet, which is a whole thing, but we won't talk about that right now. But you have all these people in close proximity together. And so when the energetic sphere of influence is strong, it's just like, I'm thinking about little posts of an electrical board, and everything just suddenly being connected because, or magnets, right? Everybody just it becomes one big clump because of how close all these magnets got to each other. I don't know, pick your analogy, but there is an effect. And that's why they call it mob mentality. And it's a psychological thing. It's a thing that people do. It's the whole herd thing, right? And that's why it's dangerous to anybody who is using that knowledge and herding the people. And it's also why the ones that are stepping outside of the herd are so dangerous to whatever that agenda is, because they're the ones that could flip the freaking magnet. They're the ones that could, if given the right circumstances or environment or platform or whatever it is, that can basically even just be like, hey, why are you doing that? And making people go, oh, right. I don't know why I'm doing that, right? And now they've stopped because they're like, what? Why am I going this way? And and then the guy beside him's like, what? What'd you say? Why am I going this way? I don't know. Why are you going this way? I don't know. Why are we going this way? I don't know. Right? Like it starts this whole domino effect. Anyways, I feel like I'm all over the place, but it is because I am a bit. This is how my brain works. And hopefully you can kind of see all these pieces scattered around and figure out what the hell I'm talking about. We were talking about blood, though, weren't we? Yeah, just the efforts of diluting the power of the feminine. And I really believe that we're in a time right now where there's a remembering of the feminine power. I think that there will be another attempt at this witch uh, burning situation. Yes, Scully. What is a bird? Um, but I don't think it's going to be successful this time because I think there's just too many. There's too many witches. You know, like they can't just ride into a town anymore and cause a ruckus and have a couple women coming out of the woodwork too. But now it's like an army or droves, and that's really great. This is a good time for it, and men, right? Men too. And I'm I try to stay away from like labels like feminism or something like that because I'm not trying to discredit or take away from the efforts, and you know I feel like it's an important faction, or it's come a long way, and it's exactly why women are where we are right now and all this kind of stuff. But for me personally, I want to stay central in the balance between the masculine and the feminine. Yes, women are portals and create life, but they're also super vulnerable during that process and they need the protection of their man, right? Like men, there's like a chemical release that happens when a man rubs his hand across a woman's back that she needs, right? Like she needs to feel. There's this idea that men are like the container that holds the woman, which is really, really beautiful because she is the container that creates life, right? Which is also his legacy. It's something that they make together, she carries. And so his job is to carry her while she's doing that. And that's why he is super strong, because he needs to be able to hold her in all the ways. And that's a beautiful combination, union, a beautiful, necessary two-part helicopter um, situation, relationship. And they heard me talking. Shit. So yeah, there's a lot there that hopefully makes some sense. Um, I probably benefit from having notes and yeah, just having notes on hand. But I find that these shares happen because I just go for it. And any sort of prepping that I do beforehand, it kind of makes it be more, I don't know what it does, but it goes against my brain, and then it doesn't end up happening. It's like it becomes too big of a deal or something. And then where do I end? Where do I stop all the things that I'm trying to curate in order to produce? And so I just throw all of that out of the way, and I just tell you, I just speak it. I just speak. And hopefully, and then when I listen to it later, when I'm trying to find words and I can't find the right words to express it, I'm over here watching going, you mean this, you're saying this. And I can't hear you, me. Um, but that's fine. It's fine. It's more about just getting it out there. I think just the sharing part. And yeah, so that is my whole thing about blood and witches. And yeah, I hope that makes sense. So anyways, back, let's go full circle here, and we'll end where we began, in the blood realm. Learn about it, figure it out, because women are out there dealing with things on levels that you just have no idea, right? Like the guy who's talking to me about his German Shepherd while I'm oozing out in my drawers, he's got no idea. And I'm the kind of person, like, if you're friends with me, I'll full on let you know, like, something's going on right now, because transparency, man. Like, oh no, everything's fine. Like, why do I have to deny things that are going on for me? Because because society has taught you to recoil at such a thing. Like, I don't know. I think women are just like amazing. They're amazing. They bleed without being cut, and they create life. Dude, what is it? What's up? What do you want? It's like he hears me talking and then he's just gotta, like, I don't know, respond. Drink the water. So, anyways, be nice to women. Stay out of their bodies. You know, I wanted to talk to a female gynecologist. So I talked to my doctor, who's a man. I'm like, hey, do you know any female gynecologists? And he's just like, well, yeah, but I also, like, that's what I went to school for. Like, that's my specialty, basically, is. And I'm like, yeah, but you're a guy. And he's like, yeah, but this is like what I've spent my whole life, studying and researching. And I'm just like, I need to talk to somebody who is a woman, because they know, like, it's more. This is what I started at the beginning. It's one thing to explain an experience and feel like you have an understanding about it. It's a whole other thing when you actually experience it. And I think more women need to be open and sharing about their experiences in this department, in those areas that have been, I don't know, pushed aside as inappropriate to discuss at the dinner table or whatever. Um, Normalize it. Normalize talking about this stuff. Like, I made damn sure that my son knew all about it, because, he likes women. And so it's something he needs to know about. Like, I remember I didn't grow up with my brothers and my sister. And I think I'd left like a pad in the when I was younger. Anyways, my brother made such a big deal about it. Like, it was so, like, I shouldn't have to see that. And oh my goodness. Cause I, grew up an only child with my mom. So I also wasn't really used to having, a little brother around. But anyways, the impression that I got was that it was kept very, very secret. It was like a dirty thing that just women had to deal with, and men shouldn't have to see, hear, touch, or whatever about it. And no, they should, because for once a month, for good 3 days, we're going through some shit, okay? And if you know about it, it's better for everybody. It's better for everybody. You being a man, you being another person, but a man, because you don't have to deal with this all the time. Like, women get it. A woman says, I can't, I'm on my period, and to another woman, and they understand 100% why, but to some men, you say, I can't, I got my period, and it's like, oh, come on, like, can't you just stick a mattress in there and take some pills and, get on with your life, kind of thing. And that's spoken exactly from somebody who thinks they understand, but they haven't actually experienced it. So, compassion. This is a good time to get your hand out. When somebody's like, oh, I can't, I got my period, your response is this. Okay, baby. Okay. You need some chocolate? You need some pho? Yeah? You want some pho? Okay. Try it. Try it. You might live another month. Okay, that went really long. I'm gonna speed it up so it's not as long for you. And yeah, and then those little pauses where my brain goes blank and I forget what words are, they won't be as long and as infuriating as they might be if it was in real time. But I mean, if you really wanted to watch it in real time, there's an option on your viewer to play with the speed. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I mean, this is a topic I could go on and on about. Obviously, I could probably go on and on about all kinds of topics, but I'm just not gonna, because it just goes too long. It's already going too long. I'm blah, 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 right now. Okay, so love you. Bye. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you leave today this space a little bit more compassionate to woman and what she's got to go through. Yeah, and also we gotta pay. We gotta pay extra. You know how much pads are, or tampons, or any sort of feminine products that are out there that try to help women in this department, and they're not all good options. We need to not stop figuring this out, because it's like just the amount of waste, right? We could do better. We could do better. Like, I'm thinking some sort of catch-all cup thing that you can dump, then you can throw it on your face, give it to your garden for nutrients, right? Dump it in the toilet, rinse out, repeat, something like that. Let's figure something like that out. But You know, people rather sit in something that absorbs it, but then you've got this squishy thing that can ooze, and oh, it just can get really, really gross. Okay, guys? And this is a secret freaking battle that women are fighting every day. Every day there's a woman dealing with their bloody freaking situation. And it shouldn't be a silent battle. So yeah. Okay. Bye.